all about electronics, and we had some great discussions before in the first part of the morning. Electronics, why is it important? Don't want to tell you too much. Of course, it's all about the critical raw materials that we need from the input point of view, but then think about the massive amount of e-waste that we also produce. And we just saw the 15 kilograms of textile waste here on stage. How's that about e-waste?
I wonder how many electronic devices that are old and unused you have at home. So what I'm going to do is to just ask you that question. In case you have more than 5 old electronic devices that you don't use anymore at home, then please raise your hands.
Who has more than 5?
Anyone more than 10?
I'm looking at the panelists. Nobody's raising it. You're supposed to raise your hand as well. Who has more than 10 electronic devices at home? Unused. Unused. Are you sure?
One honest person.
How
about you?
I can't disclose it for data privacy reasons, GDPR. But to be honest, when I think about this, I find more than 20. And for sure, you'll find them somewhere in the basement, underneath the couch. There's quite a lot. And maybe that's also one part of the topics that we are going to discuss today. So, long story short, we hand it over, right?
Yes, we're handing over to Niclas, the co-founder of Circular Republic. Applause, please, for Niclas.
Thank you very much.
Warm welcome back on stage.
Thank you, and I can only connect to that because I even have the data here. It's 53 megatons of e-waste that we produce a year, and that was only in 2019. And then we have to know it's the fastest growing waste stream we have globally. So we're going to be reaching 74 megatons of e-waste annually by 2030. And that means something because that waste is precious, and we need those metals and materials for everything actually that basically constitutes the backbone of our industries. Think digital transformation, think energy transition without electronics and without the metals there within. So be it if we want or not, we are in a fierce global competition for those resources, in every kilogram that we don't have to extract from the soil and that we keep in a loop really counts, not only for the quite obvious ecological reasons, I guess, that we all see, but for if we want really political and reasons of supply security and after all technological sovereignty that is so closely linked to our all prosperity and if you will our freedom. And I'm really excited to discuss this topic with a great round of panelists, which I'm briefly going to introduce and then ask on stage. We have here with us today Inge Hofkens, board member of Aurubis and COO Multimetal Recycling, Christine Betz, the CSO of Bosch Siemens Hausgeräte BSH Home Appliances Group, Thibaut Dassi, who is general manager and head of industrial computing at Siemens. Then we have Hannes Ametsreiter as a seasoned corporate leader, long-standing CEO of Vodafone and now also a multi-investor in a couple of startups, and Gary Lewis, co-founder and CEO of Resourcify. Please join me on stage. Inge, if I may open with you, in your role as COO at Aurubis, you had all the multi-metal recycling activities in your company, be it in Lünen, the site, one of your sites in Germany, in Berse, and Olen in Belgium, Barango in Spain, Richmond in Georgia, USA. How would you describe the state of electronic circularity right now?
I would say we are already in a pretty good state, but let me first thank you for having us here, and also very happy to be here as a sponsor of Circular Republic. It's a very, very exciting journey, what is happening here, and it's really also very exciting to be part of it. For you that don't know, Aurubis is a German-based, headquartered in Hamburg. We responsibly transform materials into metals for this innovative and modern world we are living in today. We have actually already, since 2 decades, proven technologies in treating electronic scraps and printed circuit boards coming from all different types of models or devices whatsoever, and transforming and recovering all the metals therein into their refined state again. Copper is the main metal Copper, as you know, also today very much needed for a green transition and e-mobility as a whole. So the technology is existing today. It's already there, so we can do it, which is really great. And it's going at a very fast pace in terms of growth. About 45% of our copper that we produce today is already coming solely from recycling resources. And in our strategy, we have a very clear focus on growth in the recycling area, as you said, 4 plants in Europe that are currently taking all these different types of materials. And actually in the construction phase in the US with a completely new plant, specifically for the treatment of electronic waste, because the growth is absolutely there and we expect more to come there. In total, except of, outside of the plants, we have 4 major projects, all in the recycling area. If you add all of those up, getting close to €1 billion of investment, and some very exciting other areas we are exploring in the area of battery recycling, where we have already a proven concept and are going to deploy that for further demo activity.
Exciting. So
Sorry.
that's the processors and the recyclers perspective. We also have a couple of manufacturers on stage. Maybe I'll start with Thibaut from Siemens. From your side, producing industrial electronics, producing industry computers in your case, what does circularity mean for you? And specific with that twist I initiated, with that twist of supply chain resilience that you also have to keep in mind.
This is a thematic industrial PC from Siemens. Break it down, shred it, grind it. This product can be recycled up to 95% today. The Siemens industrial PC runs 24/7, continuously, harsh environments for 10 years. So do you know that there is gold inside? And that gold helps us to protect the microelectronics inside against corrosion. And here also we have aluminum and copper, so that recyclers can bring back the materials to the suppliers or to us to be reused. So Inge, I'm pretty much sure that you're gonna help me to bring this material back to the markets. And Niclas, for Siemens, supply chain resilience is crucial to us. This product is today manufactured here in Germany. Most of the microelectronic inside are coming from Asia. So we are depending on everything that could happen between these 2 continents. And yes, in the recent past, have proven to us that things can happen. Our customers are today asking us, give me your CO2 footprint for your products. In one click. Transparency is very important, and we all need to be transparent about carbon footprint. At Siemens, we built a software platform with the latest IT technology, Seagre. Transparency is key to decarbonize. And for that, we have the 3 R's. Reduce, reuse, recycle are the key objectives that drives us every single day towards circular economy. And because materials are limited on Earth, we are also facing here a trilemma. So we really need to find the balance between the availability, the affordability, and the sustainability of raw materials in order to create an impact in our way to design, to produce, and to service in a sustainable way. And people, all of you and I are key to that transformation.
But now we hear from Inge, the technology is out there from a company like Siemens, they're embracing it, but why is this waste stream still growing at this tremendous speed anyways? Have we understood, like in the broad industry, the relevance? Hannes, do you see further companies that have really shown the awareness and also acted on it, and same goes for private consumers?
Yeah, thank you, Niklas. I think it's just a perfect moment to really discuss circularity. Why? We've made a very painful experience with being dependent on gas and oil. Dependency of Germany was 50-60%. And we experienced it was painful. And if you now look into the future, what we need to do is to really have a better planet. We need innovation, we need technology, we need photovoltaics, we need electromobility, we need other areas and activities. And what do we need for making the changes, the transformation? We need certain raw materials. And if you look at that materials, it's about lithium, it's about cobalt, it's about other materials. And if we look at the dependency, I don't know if we are aware that the dependency from outside Europe on this raw material is 80-90%. So I mean, that's a big thing. And we need to get ready. And there's one answer, and that's the strongest answer you could find, is circularity. We need to move into it fast. It needs to be at the awareness of the board levels of the DAX companies. It needs to be in the awareness in media. You need to have in every company, you need to have a platform to digitize waste and raw material, like what Resourcify is doing. And then really have that digitized, very valid information to act following data. And so this is what we are missing. And I was working for 7 years for Vodafone, and before for another 19 years in other telcos. And if I look at the situation, and if I try to find an answer, are we acting mindful? Then the clear answer is no. Because in Germany, 210 million of mobile devices are somewhere in a drawer. That's raw material. It's lithium, it's palladium, it's zinc, it's copper. And so we don't care. And I think it's now really, the time is over of not caring. We need to care. We need to be mindful. And worldwide, it's 5 billion mobile devices in some drawers. You could build 10 million car batteries with that. So really using what we have, we are sitting on it and not using. So we need to have the platform, we need to manage it, and we need to have the awareness. And then I think also needs to connect it with some targets and some ambition and some thinking of senior management to really make the steps which are necessary now for us, for the planet, for everybody.
There are some who have that awareness. I stumbled across a quote of Jean-Dominique Senard, who's the CEO of Renault, so a French compatriot. And he said this summer on the occasion of a export ban on gallium and germanium, so basically what we need for semiconductors or also in solar, he said what keeps him up at night is the material risk from China, basically, were his words, because he said that can break our neck from one day to another.
I didn't want to name that, but I mean, if they say stop, it's stop here in Europe. Yeah?
Christine, BSH has often been recognized as a front runner in electronic circularity. Can you explain to us, maybe also, because that can serve as a blueprint for others, what BSH has been doing so far and how you got there, and how you've managed to come this far?
So first, thank you for having us today, because I think this is really something we need to see more in the future, because we need to talk, we need to share our knowledge, so thanks a lot for that. So BSH is one of the worldwide biggest household appliance producers. So for us, sustainability and circularity are really crucial. And when we talk about circularity, everything begins with the product design. So we are designing products to be recyclable in the end, to be highly energy efficient, to be durable and repairable. So this is something that keeps us busy. But of course, we are also caring about the material, yeah? How to reduce the percentage of virgin material or increase the percentage of secondary material. This is something we're working quite intensively on. And what I like very much is our circular business model, Blue Movement. Here you can rent household appliances. BSH takes them back, and we refurbish it. So if you want to rent a household appliance, you can opt for a refurbished one. So as you see, we are thinking about circularity in every stage of business and supply chain. And for me, it's clear the future is circular. But I fully agree to what Hannes just said. We need to speed up. And here I see for sure one crucial thing. We need the policymakers here as well. I did not see any policymaker participating today. So we need the right incentives, and I focus the right incentives. We need more collaboration, cross-company, but also cross-industry. And last but not least, we need to change awareness within the company, but also when I talk about consumers. Consumers, they need to opt for more sustainable solutions. And this is something we are working on intensively as well.
And that's also at the core of scaling, I guess, because if we often see successful pilots, but the question is how can we transform an entire corporation and enlarge the activities and the streams from those pilots to the overall business model? And what are the prerequisites to manage that scaling?
I think it's really in the end the consumer, to make sure that consumers, first of all, are aware that there is the possibility of, for instance, like here at Blue Movement, that this is something that is an option for them to offer different solutions. For instance, we piloted second-hand washing machines just to find out if people are willing to buy second-hand washing machines. That was a quite interesting thing they do. Now the question is, how can you refurbish and remanufacture those appliances that they're economically beneficial in the end? So I think what you need to do, you need to try out what is attractive for the consumer, because in the end you always need to offer an attractive solution. Otherwise you will never be successful. And I think it's also quite clear circularity is a new path, and you need to try out things, and maybe something will work and other things will not work. So I think this is really the way we have to go. I don't have in German we say den Stein der Weisen. If I'd had him, I would share it luckily, but I don't have it. So what I think what helps in the end to share experience, to share knowledge, also to share what did not work, because companies are not used to that. Usually we try to always explain what is functioning and successful and extraordinary. So I think these are elements to scale circular economy.
Yeah. Speaking of scaling, Gary, Blue Movement was an example of a corporate startup generally. What would you say as a founder, what role can startups play in that transition, and particularly what do you contribute with Resourcify?
Okay, thanks. So for those that don't know what we do, what Resourcify does, we have a platform that connects global companies with local recyclers and reuse and take-back solutions. So we're basically building an operating system for the circular economy for companies. And the idea there is, I mean, we all know worldwide this 7% number from the GAP report. We now have the Munich number. This is great. But companies don't know what's their number, right? So what is the circularity number of Aurubis, right? Or of every
quite
company.
good, I guess.
And so we are trying to answer this question and help companies to discover, okay, what can they do? And that's operationally very complex. And so we've designed the platform around helping companies to discover what have they got, where does it go, who's getting it, and what can they do with it to try and provide a solution for this very big problem. So now to your question, what is the role of startups in this whole circular conundrum? I would say innovative companies, they need to make things cheaper, they need to make things easier, and they need to make it faster, right? And I think if you have those three ingredients, then you have an innovation. And I think startups are in a unique position to actually deliver this innovation, because existing players in the market, you really have to say, they are not incentivized to do this, right? They are incentivized actually in the other direction. So make it more expensive, make it harder to increase the lock-in effect. And I mean, that's the truth, right? So I think you need these young companies to kind of break this, create the innovation, and then push that into the industry. And now to the topic of scaling, right? So we've grown 300% year on year last year, and we're doing it again this year, and I hope we'll do it again next year. Mm-hmm. But I think it's all centered around that point. You make it cheaper, you make it faster, you make it easier. And to the topic of circularity, I think it's not only about end of life, right? And I think we'll discuss that later, but you also have reuse, right? So I think companies who are really not just looking, they're really looking at the individual parts of the problem. Because if we take a product and we throw it into a shredding facility and we extract the material value out of that, that is recycling. That is great. We need to do that. We should have 100% recycling quotas. We don't. But the far better option is actually to just reuse I want to swear now, I won't. Reuse the product, because you lose 95% of the product value when you just extract the material value out of it. So I think that needs to be part of the equation as well. And I think reusage, recycling, remanufacturing, this is all part of the solution. And I think startups are very necessary for this.
Yeah. We've seen it here that we need the consumer, of course, on board, but we have the entire B2B segment where I guess, Thibaut, your computers will never see an end consumer in that sense. They're in industrial applications. And what are the challenges that we face here? Because I think they're different ones than when introducing such models, which go even, I mean, recycling is the first step that we urgently still need to ramp up, but when we even go into further cascades such as reusing and remanufacturing and refurbishing.
So we have three challenges. The first one, I am also keeping busy with product design, as Christine mentioned. And to build a new generation of that industrial computer, we have to be modular. So we are taking feedback from our customers, from our suppliers, from the recyclers, to make sure that we are continuously improving our recycling rate. The second challenge that we are having is about material availability. So how can we work with second source, third source of supply to be able to continuously deliver our product to our customers and ensuring business continuity? And the third challenge that we have is how do we get transparency along the whole value chain when it comes to CO2 footprint? So it's essential that we connect customers, our customers, your customers, with our suppliers, partners, and recyclers in order to get those data transparency in one click.
Mm. It's quite a multi-layered issue we have here. We're talking about design, we're talking about then how do we manufacture these products, how do you take them back, what logistics schemes do we need, and after all, what business models does that imply for it to function generally? So I often have the feeling it's a yes, technological and process-related question, but it's also an issue of change management. Yeah. I see Inge already.
Yeah. I think there is exactly something to do in rethinking some of the business models. What is working, what is not working. And I think that's exactly what all of us, I think, agree, is that this can only be going through collaboration across all stakeholders from consumer to producer to manufacturer and policymakers in that whole game. And that is, I think, also where the inspiration of startups and a rethinking of other perspectives to the known or to what we have always thought was the normal, to challenge that and to just maybe put us upside down to look at it differently. And I think there is not one fit for all that will be the answer. I think clearly, and I think also that Gary mentioned that we can do this on different levels in parallel. And when I think of how can we design for recyclability, for instance, which is hugely important, we still have, of course, a lot of legacy material to carry also, that also needs to be recycled. And we have a lot of technologies that can cope with materials, but that maybe cannot cope with the future products or the future materials that are coming online. So this fine balance between what is there, what is already there also in terms of technology that can cope with a lot of recovery, and at the same time pushing for new technologies that can cope with everything that is still to come there. But definitely for recyclability, the complexity needs to go down. That's absolutely for sure, because a lot of organic and non-organic and metal and other components is getting together with hazardous, with explosive consequences when you are going through the whole processing chain. So that's really where we have to look at how to deal with that across this whole supply chain. And talking about sometimes thinking differently in how you can think of circularity also for us in kind of seemingly traditional world, we also try to push the boundaries on looking at our own materials. Metals, it's in principle when they get to their full refined stage, is the normality of things. But we also generate iron silicate granulates in our process, for instance, which today we are doing some really exciting development of using these materials back into construction materials, where we can really bring the carbon footprint down in construction materials. And it's like something that 10 years ago we might not have thought of like that, and that we are really pursuing also in a very different way. Then again, on technologies, as said, we are already since quite some decades with some technologies going into this area of processing, but we have recently also set up a new setup in our Lunen plant, which is actually there to treat more organic materials, and we are going to test or use this technology to really see if we can do some more learnings, really to, like you say, also test and try to see where it brings us and what we can then take as a next step. Where in this process, for instance, all the organic can be turned into a synthetic gas, and that gas can then be used again afterwards for hydrogen production, for instance. So really taking it from different levels or parallel streams at the same time, while doing also what we do already today in a certain state. I think what on top of that one, what I would like to add, what is definitely a challenge I think today is that in terms of the regulations that we are facing today, there is a lot of regulation coming onto us. As I think we all know, there is sometimes even a bit of over-regulation in Europe, but in terms of the different regulations at hand, a lot of them are sometimes contradictory. And that is very difficult. So I think what we also need is very clear regulation that we can adopt and understand what it really means also and where it will bring us, so that it's also easier to work with across the whole supply chain and the value chain. And also when it comes down to new technologies and new things that will really support the circularity idea, we would definitely need also to accelerate on permit approvals, because in some cases we have seen already examples of European companies departing Europe because of very long and of processes that take really long to get actually to final permitting.
Yeah, regulation is one thing, incentivization is maybe the other, and I mean one thing is what role the state can play, but the other is what role we as companies can play in ensuring that incentive alignment, that an entire value chain benefits from circularity, if you will, that the manufacturer produces, that's the ever ongoing topic, manufactures products and designs them in a way that you can then better recycle them at the end of life. But those incentives, we need to create them in the context of that cross-value chain collaboration, but I think we also need to create them within the organizations themselves, because even there we have conflicting interests in a way. Going back to that change management issue, Hannes, if you, and we've mentioned it, you've led Vodafone Germany for so many years. How do you spark that change within an organization where many people surely are not yet ahead of the curve?
Sure. I was at Vodafone Germany 1 or 2 years ago, so just to make that one and correct it. What do we need? I think that's the discussion we are having at the moment, and I would absolutely prefer a business process over some semi-religious laws. But we need to see a combination of, on one hand, have a clear framework, which also means laws and discussing, having a clear vision for the European Union, for the countries, for the companies, but it should be based on business processes. So I would feel much better if it's really, if we are aware of the value. And if we look about what can be done with that raw material, we need to make sure that there's a very good understanding in the industry and with everybody that we only can keep our industry growing if we have the raw material and the supply chain available and in place. If this is not the case, we're not growing anymore. And so therefore, this needs to be the awareness, and then it needs to be a process that valuable things are valuable, and you get something for it. And you just need to set up a process to recycle. And I mean, for me, when we the first time discussed, and Gary told me, look, 30%, if you're lucky, is recycled, 70% is either burnt, we're talking about waste, or landfill. I mean, just think about what that means, the landfill. We've seen it before with the textile, and I mean, that's terrible. I mean, that's really harm to the planet. And trying to find solutions to get the circularity quota up is something we need to do. And it needs to be a process which is incentivized, so it should be good to do that. And it should also be an understanding in the boardrooms, but also in the companies, that it's good for everybody, that you recycle things, not just throw it away and burn it or landfill it or anything. So I think the topic of circularity will be the basement of future growth of the industry in Germany, Europe, and beyond. And so therefore, we need to have all the platforms in place to be able to do so. And so that is so important, to find that balance of having the right framework, anchor also the targets in some, it could be in the ESG, it could be whatever, but as a stock-traded company, you should have some ambitions there in circularity. Is that the case at the moment? Not really. Why not? We should. If we are convinced that it makes sense to head that direction, we should do that. And so I mean that's my feedback on what should be done and what should be used.
Maybe I can add the perspective of a company, because I mean, talking about circularity, that means a fundamental transformation. I mean, we cultivated that take, make, waste for decades. So you need, when you really mean it and you want to change, you need to be aware of the scale we are talking about. So for sure, I think within a company, you need to have a North Star. So where do we want to head? But you need also to have reachable, achievable targets. The employees, they have sustainability close to their hearts, but they want to know where to go. And also they want to see that that sustainability is beneficial for the success of our company, because I would say that's a prerequisite. So in the end, I'd say that's the framework that is necessary to really bring the change, but it's really a fundamental transformation for the companies. And the process is different for each business model. For some, it's intuitive, and for others, it's highly complex. And I think we need to look at it also quite honestly here.
I would say, though, and this might come across a bit controversial, but companies need to embrace this. We have a lot of discussions about, is this a boardroom topic? Are companies really talking about this? Is there, so you say we need a North Star. Is there a North Star would be my question. I think in some companies, yes. I don't want to take away from the success of that, but I would say, broadly speaking, no. Like, this is not a boardroom topic. Where are the board members? If you're a board member in the audience, maybe you can raise your hand.
And we have some on stage.
Yeah, we're up here too.
But how come it's not a boardroom topic? Given the urgency, we've discussed it, it's crystal clear to everyone. it's not only ecological motives, it's business continuity, it's future success. Why is it still not a boardroom topic in every boardroom?
I think it's not a business case yet, is the clear answer. I think there are some business cases, and I think those where it exists, we see these pioneer projects happening, but I think that then loops back to regulation. Like, how do you create a business case? You need to level the playing field, right? So it should be more expensive to landfill or burn something than to reuse it. So how do you do that, right? Or it needs to be cheaper to reuse something than recycle something. Like, we're very far on a cost curve. We're very far from all of those things. And I think until we see that, this smell of money is not there. We need to get this into the boardrooms, I would hope there are some companies who are having that discussion in reverse. How do we create that? And I think that does exist. But
Yes and no. Yes and no. Sorry, if I jump right in. I fully agree to what you said. It needs to be a business case in the end. Yeah, because we want and we want to earn money. But this is what we are doing. Yeah, we try to find that business case. And are we perfect? No, we are not yet. But I think it's fair enough to say it's really a journey, and I wouldn't go so far to say it's not in the boardrooms. Is it there already to the scope? It should be. No, but I mean I'm now responsible for sustainability more than 10 years, and I can assure you the dynamic definitely speeded up. Is it already enough? No, it's not. But I think, and so therefore I'm happy to see all those faces here. I'm pretty sure that every one of you is really asking yourself, what can I make differently in the business life and in the private life? So yes and no, we discuss later.
Hannes, you're about to jump in.
I mean, also bringing some aspect to the discussion that things are not that easy. So for instance, if you're a company you want to sell a mobile device, you want to sell any product, you want to sell very often. And so therefore, are you really happy about a very long duration of a product? Maybe not. And so finding that right balance of, on one hand, seeing growth and prosperity, which is important and we want to see. On the other hand, having a balanced approach that we use things and repair them. I mean, that's a totally different thing. I mean, before it was like, if it's not working, you throw it away. And you don't care about the material which are built into the product. And I think finding that right, it's a fine line. So it's not the easy answer, but I think we need to be aware of that to be able to address it. And this is what we need to have this discussion about what is the right approach. And that's not an easy one.
Yeah, after all, it's a business model question, right? If your business model is aligned to precisely that goal. By the way, looking into the audience, if there are comments or questions, feel free to raise. Oh, there is the first one. I'll need to check if our colleague over. That went fast.
Thank you so much. My question was precisely, that I think you rightfully touched the topic immediately right now about the business case. Because, I'm coming from the finance side. I work with Siemens. So what sort of discussions are you having and how are you justifying the business case internally as well as externally? Because clearly there are a lot of things which are, say, recycled, but they are still not as cheap as the virgin topics, virgin materials. So, what sort of discussions or what sort of, how are you justifying that internally? I'll be really curious to know. Anybody?
And who calculates risks in that equation, like, holistically? Because it changes maybe also the debate.
I think the case for us is in any case very different because I would say recycling is in our DNA. It's like the purpose of existence, and that makes a big difference. So I might not be the right one to answer your question.
I mean, if the over...
Yeah, but I think, trying to find an answer there, it needs to be a business case. And so therefore, think about what you're doing. And it's also about the value you're giving away. At the moment, it's counted at 0. So if you're throwing away, for instance, a mobile device, it's like 0. There are some suppliers, like Apple is doing that, are taking products back. That's already an approach. Yeah? So you get, as a consumer, some money for returning something. That's already a model and a process, which makes sense now for the consumer. And I think the same is for companies. I mean, Gary is collecting waste, and waste can be valuable. It's about metal, paper, plastic, anything, textile, and you've seen so many ideas here up in the first floor that you are getting value out of that waste. So it is available. But at the moment, we do not really have that understanding. And if you do it, take it back, and get money for that, and earn money with it, then it makes sense. Then the CFO is happy, then the capital market is happy, and so, I mean, can you find that way forward? Yes, you can. But you need to have that very deep understanding, and I also agree, are all the platforms in place? No, that's not the case. Yeah? So you need to build it. But first you need to have that very good and deep understanding of what can be done.
Mm. And the business case, I mean, there are some out there that function and they earn good money by capturing the very value that is obviously bound in products still. I wonder if in these cases we see where the business case that does not yet exist, if that is macroeconomic framework conditions issue, true prices, externalities, whatsoever, or if that's a matter we can fix through technological solutions, through alternative business models, where we, after all, reduce the cost that we have to carry in terms of remanufacturing and improve the business case in comparison to
and
new
maybe also having
scrap.
a follow-up. Just imagine if lithium or silicium would not be available anymore, and it's not available in Europe, which is the case, by the way, or almost not. Then this would mean there is no Energiewende, there is no electromobility, there is no photovoltaics. And so therefore, it should be our ambition to have access to these resources. And if you don't have the resources in the ground, you at least should do a circularity approach and circular economy. So I mean, this is so, one is, do I earn money with that? The other one, do you go out of business? Because, I mean, talk to the car manufacturers in Germany, if they don't have batteries, not good. So therefore, this needs to be an understanding, which needs to be a bigger and broader one.
Yeah.
And that's at least something one positive thing we had with COVID and with the Suez Canal and now with the war in Ukraine, that awareness is rising. I was seeing Nora.
May I just, I do have a small answer to add to that one. I think never look at the business case on your company only. Because if in terms of recycling, if you try to figure out each and every piece and the steps to go and what is needed in order to get everything back on a standalone basis, it's sometimes very difficult to defend any investment, even if it's a small investment in between. And that's when you have to get out of that zone to see with whom can we collaborate. I think, and that often can make the business case work.
We're running a bit short in time, but I still want to have you, Nora.
Yeah, thank you. Nora Griefan, CEO and founder of Cradle to Cradle NGO. I was just also talking about the idea, I think, to add one thing to the business case discussion, I'm totally thinking there is a business case, and I think it's just we really need to change the model behind, and that's something that the most of the companies are right now not starting to do. They are just changing something at the end or thinking about recycling, and that brings me to my question, because I think we need to focus on the design phase and on the starting point. And therefore, I think we also need to discuss the material health perspectives and if we are really looking at the quality of the material we are using. And so my question is, are you aware of this, or are you actually working with these ideas on actually using the right quality of materials? Because if we have toxic materials or materials that will have hazardous sources and produce hazardous waste, even if you're recycling them sometimes, we will still be in a linear economy.
It touches maybe upon what you basically said, Inge, right? That you...
I think absolutely design is at the forefront there to understand. And I think I have seen in any case a very great example here as one of the startups that is actually really looking into what are now the really the basics of components to be used in certain materials and in certain devices. And I think that's really exciting. So I think that is why it is so important to have these innovative thoughts and to use the potential that we also have today in terms of digitalization, in terms of data management, to kind of understand better what we are looking there.
What's going on?
Yes. Very shortly, yes, we are aware, but as Thibaut said before, you need to have transparency, and to create transparency is really a big challenge. So we need platforms, we need collaboration, we need more formats like here. Thank you so much.
That fits perfectly as a wrap-up. I would have had a couple of other questions, but I think given the fact that I think half of the remaining audience is standing out there waiting for lunch over here. I think let me just thank all of you for that exciting discussion, and I'm handing back to Tina and Leo and wishing you a great lunch break. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Niclas.
Thank you.